Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Chris Weidenbar, and joining us today from the Australian Army is Colonel Frank Colley. We're honoured to acknowledge Brigadier General Laurent Hendricks, Director of Operations Royal Netherlands Marechaussee, and the accompanying delegation. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by visitors and by students on behalf of the following schools from South Australia: Aldgate Primary School, Happy Valley Junior Primary School, Prescott North Primary School, Para Vista, and Yarl Primary School. I now ask you all to please stand and join in singing the National Anthem. Thank you. Students, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's first World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this National Memorial and Museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway lands. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Lieutenant Carl Oswald Basche. Carl Basche was born on the 4th of March, 1876, to Carl and Emily Basche in Kempsey, New South Wales. His parents were dairy farmers in the Macleay River district, and Carly, as he was known, was the younger of two sons. He excelled at his studies at West Kempsey Superior Public School and went on to study at the Fort Street School in Sydney. After completing school, he became a clerk in the New South Wales Colonial Treasury. In 1899, he married Eulalie Netterfield in Sydney. Basche joined the colonial militia in 1893 at the rank of private and worked his way through the non-commissioned ranks before being commissioned as a second lieutenant in January 1899. In October of that year, after a worsening political deadlock, Britain declared war on the two Boer republics, the Orange Free State and the South African Republic. Each of the Australian colonies committed troops to the conflict. Basche joined the second contingent to be sent from New South Wales on the staff of the officer commanding the 1st New South Wales Mounted Rifles. He left Sydney on the troop ship Southern Cross in mid-January 1900, arriving at Cape Town in mid-February. After spending some time in camp outside Cape Town, the horses and men of the Mounted Rifles travelled on trains to the border of the Orange Free State. In letters home, Basche described two actions in which he was involved with his unit in March. During the first battle at Poplar Grove, Basche led a detachment of Mounted Rifles to relieve men of his unit who had been pinned in position by enemy fire. At the second action, at Drumfontein, the Mounted Rifles engaged 400 mounted Boers for 6 hours. I had several narrow escapes, he wrote, as bullets were falling like hail all around us. During the fighting, Basche's horse was shot twice, but recovered afterwards. One evening in mid-March, Basche was ordered to ride from his position to headquarters to pick up orders. During his journey, his horse stumbled after putting a foot into an aardvark hole. Recovering in hospital in Bloemfontein, he wrote to his parents, "Don't worry about me, as I am in good hands." However, he mentioned other symptoms, not caused by the fall, which suggests that he had contracted typhoid fever while in hospital. Sanitation in the military hospitals was not good, and there was no clean water supply for the soldiers in Bloemfontein. On the 16th of April 1900, Basche died of typhoid in hospital. Just over half of the Australian soldiers who died in South Africa died of illness. One of Basche's comrades in the Mounted Rifles recalls that Basche's funeral in President Brand Cemetery in Bloemfontein was delayed by 2 hours because of the sheer number of burials taking place. Carl Basche was 24 years old. He was survived by his parents, his older brother Bertrand, and his widow Eulalie. In Sydney, his former colleagues unveiled a brass plaque in his memory at the New South Wales Treasury Building. Lieutenant Carl Oswald Basche is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, among more than 600 Australians who died while serving in the Boer War. A photograph of his memorial plaque is displayed beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. we now remember Lieutenant Colonel Oswald Basche, who gave his life for us, for his country, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. We thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial and wish you all a very good evening.